With Israel Adesanya recently being submitted by Dricus du Plessis at UFC 305, it has led a lot of people to think about and to come to the conclusion that Israel Adesanya is washed. Now, although in my opinion this may be true, this division really has always been like this. I mean, we see a lot of fighters go through their peak, going on an insane run, win the title, then lose it shortly after to someone who's on the come up already or to someone that's been beaten before. This wasn't always the case though with the middleweight division. Anderson Silva held the title for an insane amount of time. We're talking 2006 to 2013. Arguably one of the best to ever do it because he held it for that long. Anderson Silva was very dominant in his title defenses. I mean, I truly don't think we'll ever see a champion like that in this division in particular again. Like a Kamaru Usman, for example. I mean, people were talking about him being one of the best 170s to ever do it because he just defended that belt for so long. And it's not necessarily the time that these champions are holding the belt, because of course if you're active you're going to lose the belt faster, unlike some people who are very inactive and hold the belt for almost 4 years. John Jones. But it's more of a problem that we have a lot of great talent in the middleweight division, but no one really dominating. We're gonna see a lot of recycled champs. Shit, we might even get Robert Whittaker as a champ again. This is the problem, you know. A lot of fighters are gonna move up because there's just so much recycled champs. We might see du Plessis move up, we might see Sean move up, and I think it's a problem. The middleweight division is very entertaining, but again, there's just really no dominant champ. But first I want to talk about the history of champs leading up to the present day. After holding the title from 2006 to 2013, we then see Silva lose to Chris Weidman, which is the beginning of the problem in this division. After Chris Weidman holds the title for 2 years, we see Luke Rockhold defeating Weidman to gain the title in 2015. 1 year later, we see Michael Bisping beat Luke, and now we have another champ again in the middleweight division. Fast forward another year later, one of the GOATs, GSP, beats Bisping to regain the title in 2017. That's already 3 champs in 3 years, which is insane. You guys see the pattern now and what I'm talking about in the middleweight division. It's very weird, and it's still holding up to the present day as well, which we'll get into. Then we get to mid 2017 when GSP vacates the title, making Robert Whittaker and Yoel Romero fighting to be the new champ. Robert Whittaker wins and holds the title for 2 years before losing it to Izzy in 2019, which leads us to the current present day. The last 3 previous champs, Sean Strickland, Alex Pereira, Israel Adesanya, all didn't hold it for more than 2 years. And our current champ with a recent win against Israel Adesanya has won it in January, so it's obviously too hard to tell if he'll hold it for more than a year or 2. But again, this is a problem in the middleweight division. I think we see a lot of fighters that really could lose at any given moment. I mean, you see Israel Adesanya lose to Alex Pereira. Alex Pereira knocks out Sean Strickland. Izzy then beats Alex Pereira, loses to Sean Strickland. So it's a lot of good competition obviously in this division, but we don't really have a champ that is really dominant. So what's really next for the middleweight division? I mean, do we see Dricus du Plessis hold the title with more defenses and become one of those dominant champions? Or do we see Sean regain the title, or even Robert Whittaker, who's gone on an insane run? And du Plessis has been saying, you know, Robert Whittaker deserves this title shot, which I also agree on. Do we see him regain again too? There honestly is no telling though for the future in this division. And I think moving up will be the best option for some of these fighters that maybe aren't in the right place for another title run in middleweight. So that's what I'm going to be showing you. Some hypothetical matchups I think will be good for a middleweight fighter going up to 205 for the first time. Now the first matchup we're going to be making is Israel Adesanya versus Jamal Sweet Dreams Hill. I think this would be a crazy matchup. Even everything leading to the fight, like the press conference, I think it would be a lot of shit talk, especially from Jamal Hill. But I think this is a very good matchup, and I think stylistically Israel Adesanya has the upper advantage. And if Israel Adesanya is going to beat a 205er, it's going to be Jamal Hill. I'm not saying he would beat Jamal Hill, but I think he has a good chance of doing so. Jamal Hill has a lot of power, and Israel Adesanya is known to be chinny. So honestly, I think this is a great matchup, and it's not necessarily out of the park because Israel Adesanya's coach wants Jamal Hill next after Alex Pereira UFC 287 KO win. Now let's take a listen.
I wonder, does 205 with Jamal Hill, is it a bit too soon for that? It sounds like you guys have sort of unfinished business at middleweight.
At light heavyweight. Let's do it.
So he's open to doing the fight, obviously. I mean, maybe he was on air and didn't want to say no, didn't really think about it for too long. But again, it crossed his mind. So obviously it's not out of the park. And I know Jan kind of showed Israel Adesanya that he really doesn't belong at 205. But I think Izzy has nothing else left at middleweight. I think he needs to move up to 205, maybe to go on another run. But yeah, I think this is a crazy matchup. I truly do. So that's the first matchup. Now ignore the tapping in the back. It is currently raining, so that's what you're hearing in the background. But for this next matchup, I have Sean Strickland versus Carlos Ulberg. I think this is a good matchup, but at the same time, I really don't. I want to know your guys' thoughts on this matchup in the comments below. I feel like Carlos Ulberg is a very good up-and-coming light heavyweight. And I also feel like Sean Strickland's style could give him a lot of problems. But I don't know if Sean Strickland could take a 205er's punch, and especially a 205er like Carlos. He's a very good power puncher, and honestly don't know how I feel about this matchup. I don't know if it's 50-50 or not. I don't even know who would win. But I think this would be an entertaining matchup. And I think it's a good first fight for Sean Strickland. Now, I did see that he walks around normally at 210 to 220. And as you guys know, he's making 185. So that's a harsh weight cut. And honestly, moving up to 210, or sorry, to 205 I think it's the right decision for Sean Strickland if he doesn't win the belt. We all know he's going to get another title shot. So I guess we have to wait and see. But if he doesn't win the belt, I think going up to 205 is a good decision, and I think he could do good at 205. I really do. Now, I also did hear that Sean Strickland previously fought at 205. Before the UFC, he was fighting at King of the Cage, and I did hear that he was a championship in the 205 division. I don't know if that's true or not. I heard it somewhere on Reddit. So, but if he did fight at 205, that means he's already used to the weight, and I mean, weight wouldn't really be a problem. Again, he's making 185, so I feel like that's more of a problem than, you know, making weight at 205 and fighting at 205. So I like this matchup. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments, because I feel like this is a good matchup. But yeah, for the next matchup I'm going to be making, it's going to be Dricus Du Plessis versus Alex Pereira at 205. Now, the reason why it's at 205 is because I feel like Alex Pereira is so drained at 185. Although it could happen at 185, I do like Dricus Du Plessis. If he does potentially win the 2 rematches he's probably going to do for his next title defenses, Robert Whittaker and Sean Strickland, I think there's nothing else left in the middleweight division, and I think he has to go up, and he might want to chase that double champ status. And Alex Pereira, if he wins his next fight against Roundtree, and Alex Pereira is so active, so he'll probably have 1 or 2 more fights. If he stays champ, I think this is the fight to make for sure. At 205 or at 185, it doesn't really matter. I think it's more realistic at 205. But Alex Pereira recently said he'll even come down to 185 one more time. So we could potentially see Alex Pereira be double champ and come down to 185 to face Dricus Du Plessis. Now, I feel like at 185, Dricus Du Plessis has a better chance just because Alex is so drained. I honestly don't know how Alex makes 185. It's kind of insane. But, yeah, I feel like this is a dream fight. The biggest fight probably to make in the next 1 or 2 years for sure, 1,000%. So that's all I have today for the matchups. I hope you guys enjoyed, and until next time.